all for coming, and thanks to the snow for holding off so that people could get here and we could all get home. So we're going to start with two songs.
And everybody's going to be part of these two songs. So, as you know, we've been trying to do more and more of everybody singing, not just choir. So we're up here so that if you don't know the words, you can see our mouths. We're going to sing There's Joy in the Heavens, and then we're going to sing Make Us Channels.
Sings everywhere. The flowers are all laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air. The flowers are all laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air. Leave home in the sunshine, dance through a meadow, or sit by a stream and just be. The lilt of the water will gather your worries and carry them down to the sea. The lilt of the water will gather your worries and carry them down to the sea. Men hunger for freedom but don't see the dungeon is only the thought that they're bound. Desires are their shackles, the hope that tomorrow the doorway to joy will be found. Desires are their shackles, the hope that tomorrow the doorway to joy will be found. There is joy all around us, why wait till tomorrow? We've only this moment to live. A heaven within us is ours for the finding, a freedom no riches can give. A heaven within us is ours for the finding, a freedom no riches can give. There's joy in the heavens, a smile on the mountains, and melody sings everywhere. The flowers are all laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air. The flowers are all laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air. The flowers are all laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air. Lord Most High, our Heavenly Father, all our lives we dedicate to Thee. All our labors, all our joys and woes, all our pleasure, all our melody. Make us each a channel of Thy peace. When in darkness, guide us from above. Where there's sorrow, may we sow Thy joy. Where there's hatred, may we share Thy love.
Like a buddy just said, best choir ever.
Okay, so once again, thanks for coming. And so this morning, Davey and I will each talk for, 15 minutes or so, and then the good stuff will start after that. Have some, Atman will talk about the 50th anniversary in the temple. Jaya will give a little report on India, and then we have some surprises that everybody's going to enjoy. So we were trying to think of what theme we might address, and the other night, on Thursday night, we did a satsang for what we have been calling the next wave, but that wave is getting kind of a little extended now, so the younger people in the community. And one of the questions that came up was, what do you see the directions for Ananda over the next 5 years or farther into the future? So I thought it might be nice to address that. And to begin with, this is sort of a caveat. Our son used to work for either the richest person or one of the richest people in Sacramento, a man named Tyler Schilling, and he didn't have a college education, but he started something called Schilling Robotics, which produced like 95% of all the undersea robots for the whole world, and he became, hundreds of millions of dollars. He was giving a talk to some young entrepreneurs, and they asked him, what is the secret of your success? So this has to do with prognosticating the future. And he said, well, first of all, I'm a visionary. I have a very, very clear sense of what's going to happen in the future. Unfortunately, that only lasts for about 15 minutes. The rest is due to hard work, persistence, and good luck. And so, anyway, we'll try to prognosticate. I don't know whether it'll be accurate over more than 15 minutes or not. But what are the trends that are going to be here? First of all, we're going to be quite occupied or preoccupied this year with Ananda's 50th anniversary, obviously, and next year with the 100th anniversary of Master coming. But those aren't trends, they're events. And so I want to talk about the trends that will go on into Ananda's future. Relatively short term, there will be a continuation of what we have been doing. But I don't see that for very long that Ananda will really continue in the direction that we have been going. And the reason for that is this, that what we have been doing up until now is we have been basically trying to tune in to Babaji and Master. We should always remember that the whole of this work is being directed by them. Swami tuned into that, we're trying to tune into that, but it's all according to God's will. But they have a particular mission to the world. And so up until now, one could say that what Ananda has been trying to do is to produce the ideal environment for devotees to be able to find God. And so both here at the village, but everywhere, all of our other centers, our meditation groups, our communities, everywhere, we basically have been trying to put a magnetic net out for people who want to find God. And so we've been training those people. We have lots and lots of classes. We have been bringing them up through Kriya, giving them Kriya, supporting them after they've had Kriya. And of course, we work with a broader audience than just that, but that's really the underlying goal, is to serve those people who want to find God. And we have been doing that by multiplying our presence on a physical level. Started here 50 years ago, then the communities around America, then meditation groups and centers, communities and centers in Europe, and then finally, about 15 years ago, it started in India. So think of the globe, and we have been spreading around the globe, but we have been appealing to those people who want to find God. Now, I see two trends. So what I don't see is that Ananda's future lies in just a continuation of that same pattern that we have done until now. First of all, there is only so much we can do on a physical level. One of the reasons that we can't spread very fast is that most of the people in this room either came in the first 10 years or the last 10 years. And in between, there were like 30 years where not so many people came. And so we don't have the people that would have come, say, in the early 90s and have been working first in, doing a job and then running a department and then running a major aspect and now are ready to go out and do communities. We just don't have that group of people. There's a limit. We're going to be stretched as the leaders of our current communities past their, as Swami said, their shelf life. We're going to be stretched just to replace that and keep those communities really vibrant. And so I don't see that we're going to be able to spread around the world physically and continue that. And I also don't see that it's only America. Think of that as a brick and mortar model of here we'll talk about commerce. The brick and mortar model of commerce is beginning to die. Sears went bankrupt. We just heard Payless Shoes is closing 2,000 stores. So that whole model of lots and lots of stores all over, lots and lots of centers all over, it's hard to maintain. They're expensive to build, they're expensive to staff, and there's only so much that you can do, and the trend in the world is not supporting that. So if you translate that to communities and centers, brick and mortar centers are hard to build, expensive to build, hard to staff. Obviously you need them. I'll come back to that. But here I'm making a point here that that brick and mortar model is a little difficult. And yet, coming back, our job is to train people in these teachings and to support them in their practice of these teachings. But suppose that we had a little gathering, and I said to Atman and Nityananda, and we had all of the leaders of all of the communities here, and I said that due to financial constraints, we have to downsize. You have to figure out how to do what you're doing now with a staff of 10 people for everything. And they'd say, well, you're crazy. Well, that may be. I mean, you may think that in any case. So, but that model of training and supporting people around the world with 10 people or fewer, we're already doing. So with the Ananda Online, we probably train in any given year more people than all of the physical centers put together. In terms of support, we support more people than all of the physical centers put together. And in terms of community, the cost of building and maintaining and repairing and the roads and the communication systems, all of that, the biggest community that we have is the virtual community. And so there are less than 10, there are 3 or 4 people who are doing all of the building and the and the maintaining and the structuring and the teaching and all of that. So the point here is that instead of spreading physically, one of the trends that's going to happen is that we're going to spread virtually. And that's true even where we have local centers. We see it first in India, but if we have a center in Bangalore or in Delhi or in even smaller places, we have to have a virtual presence, because people to come to the center midweek, it might take them an hour to get from where they are to the center and 45 minutes to get home. So nobody comes. And so there we're having to also support and extend virtually. So that's one trend that I see, is that we're going to need to really figure out how to do our mission in a better way, in a deeper way, in a virtual way. And that is already well underway. We didn't just figure this out yesterday. We've already started, and within about 3 or 4 months, when a person clicks onto Ananda online, they're going to be asked to register. Once you register, you all, as Sevakas, the next time you click on ananda.org, the pages that come up will be pertinent to you as Sevakas. You won't get just generic ananda.org vanilla website. It will have all of the pages that you visit regularly. It will have the menus that are pertinent to you. And of course, it will have other options too. If a new person clicks, they'll get a completely different page. Everybody will get their own page when they come to ananda.org. What that allows us to do is really to personalize our service to those people. We're working on an app that is an Ananda app that will come on the mobile phones and other mobile devices. And when a person clicks on that, it will know the location of that person. So a person in Seattle clicking on that will first of all get all the classes happening in Seattle. And then other choices, if they make other choices, they'll see maybe Ananda worldwide. If they're of Indian background, they're interested in India, they'll see that. If that same person flies down to LA and clicks, they'll get the LA schedule on their phone. So it locates them and then gives them the options of what they want. So that's, again, personalizing, but we have to really, really explore. So one of the great trends is to explore how to really service and personalize and really bring masters and our presence, our spiritual family presence to people, but not in a personal, physical way, because we just can't go global by trying to do that, not the people sitting in this room anyway. So that's one trend that I see. So, as I said, now the second trend that I see, so I've described this, that we're servicing the people who want to find God, and that is obviously the deeper mission. But remember, we're extensions of Babaji and Master. And Babaji and Master came for global consciousness as well as the consciousness of the devotee. And so what I'm talking about here is what Babaji says in his incarnation as Krishna in the Gita: only one person out of 1,000 will seek me. So Babaji is saying to us, only one person out of 1,000 is ready to consciously say, I'm seeking God and I'm really going to dedicate my life to it. But Babaji and Master didn't come only for the devotees. They came for world consciousness. And so we have a second mission, which is to reach maybe not the other 999, because there are a lot of people that simply, the vast majority of that, aren't going to be interested at all in what we have to offer them. They're too busy just trying to survive, or anyway. But let's say that there's a quarter or 20% or 10%. So out of 1,000, there's another 100. Well, so far we've been dealing with one around here. Now let's say we've got another 100, but those people aren't ready to say, I'm going to seek God. But they know that they want something more than what they've got. They know that they're not satisfied, and they've gotten to the evolutionary stage where they also recognize that what they want can't be just something more physically, that it has to be a change of consciousness. And that's what we're starting with the Institute, which we'll talk much more about next week. But think of this spread around the globe as, because we see it as flat, as a horizontal spread. Now we're going to go vertically. So we've been going horizontally, picking off the 1 out of 1,000 all around the globe. Now we're going to try to get another 99, and that's a vertical movement instead of just more centers here and there. So the Institute is going to be designed to take Master's teachings without diluting them, but with relanguaging them in such a way that a person who recognizes that their future is to change consciousness, we give them the tools and the inspiration and the techniques and the understanding so that they can do that. And we're trying to reach all of those people that are available and wanting to have a new life, but have not at this point defined themselves as seeking God. So we're trying to reach those. The footprint, the physical footprint of the Institute is not going to be that large, even though it'll probably physically be bigger than all of our facilities combined eventually, but that isn't very large. But the real reach will be through electronic and virtual means, but we're trying to reach a whole different audience. So I see that as one of the great, great trends. And all of these things are happening in the next 5 years or so. They're already underway. They're already in movement. What about the next 50 years? Well, there I see trends which I'm not going to go into, but I think that there are trends happening in Dwapara Yuga that are going to come back around and want physical communities. But it is not in the way that we have seen it now. I think one of the trends that's going to happen is that the movement of artificial intelligence and robots, a lot of people looking into the future say that by 2050, already there have been 10 million jobs taken over by programs. In the next 10 years, there are going to be another 30 million jobs just in this country taken over by robots. And all of the drivers, when you have driverless, all of those occupations go. Anyway, by 2050, there is the prediction that there will not be a single profession that humans do that can't be better done by artificial intelligence. But that's profession. That can't replace the human heart. So the human heart and the connecting with people is going to be there. But coming back to occupation, I see one of the great trends happening is that the occupations that we have now and the self-identity and self-worth that are tied to our occupations is going to dissipate. So a person who earns a lot of money and is at the top of the food chain because they're a lawyer, there won't be any lawyers in 20 years, or very, very few. So what does that person do? He does something like what we do at Ananda. We don't care what our occupation is. Our self-identity isn't tied to occupation. We don't really care what our income is. As long as we can maintain ourselves, we're fairly happy. We're not in it for that. Well, that's going to be a cataclysmic translation for the world as a whole, but we're in the sweet spot. We're already there, and we can help people with that transition. So imagine a future in 30 or 40 or 50 years where there's a universal income that has to be there because it can't be tied to occupation. And there's no need then to live in a city or live somewhere in order to earn a living. What are people going to want to do? They're going to want to come together with people of other consciousness like theirs, and that's where communities, which we will have pioneered, will come back in. That's my little vision of the future anyway. I don't know whether these things are true. All I know is that we are devotees of a great, great line. They're in charge, and our job is to hang on to their coattails and ride the wave.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming and braving the weather. Just to add, going along this theme of trends of the future, the way I responded to the question that was asked the other night was I said, less specific, but I think the two things that Ananda, all of us, and particularly the Sevaka order, and let me pull back a moment to say, what is the Sevaka order? It's sort of those of us who hold the lamp, all of us collectively. We have said, this is my life. There isn't anything that still is out there that, oh, if only I could do this, maybe I'll go do that. It's like we've been there, we've done that. We've made the decision, this is my life. And by holding that lamp up like that, it enables other people to see the path clearly. And they say, oh, that's how you do it. That's how you walk the path to God. I see these people are doing it. So the Sevaka order, and Swami foresaw this, is of tremendous importance to the communities movement, to the spiritual consciousness of Masters, I should say the evolution of consciousness that was the mission of Master and Babaji. And so the Sevaka order is of utmost importance, and it's taken us a while to discover what it is and why it is. More important, why it is. And it's there because without making that statement, it would be very easy for other voices to come in and say, oh yeah, but there's this other path and this other mantra and this other, and it's like, no, we have chosen our way, and it's Master's way, and we are moving forward in a stream. So that's the why of the Sevaka order, which is, in a way, the most important thing, more important than the what of it. But I think in the period ahead, two things I see that will be needed for our Sevaka order globally. One is, and Jyotish was referring to this, creative adaptation of our mission. And I don't want to leave you with the impression that he was saying it's all virtual. We're not having communities. We're not having centers. Of course we'll continue those things. And of course we'll be teaching one-on-one and counseling and sharing and being there for people. Of course that will go on. But it will be also creatively expanded in another way. So creative expansion of our mission. And then the second, and maybe the most challenging, will be adapting to world changes. Because I think these are upon us. And we can, people often ask me, well, you're kind of hunkered down there in the hills, and do you know what's going on in the world? And, it's getting pretty bad out here. Are you guys aware of it? Yes. I mean, we do look at the news daily, and it is getting bad up there. We are out there, and we are aware of it. But how will we adapt to the changes that are going on in the world? Someone asked us, and this is sort of a scary thing, but a few years ago someone said, well, if it's kind of doomsday and there are roving bands looking for food, and will Ananda communities arm themselves? And I said, of course we won't arm ourselves. That's not where our strength is. Our strength is in consciousness and in a unitive vision. So, for example, in the North San Juan Ridge, rather than thinking there's these people and there's those people and here's Ananda, we would see the whole ridge as our community. And similarly, I'm looking at Dharmadasa Nirmala in Sacramento, all the people that live in your area, how can we support each other? Okay, you have medical skills, okay, you have educational skills, but we have to think of not just our little community, but if we're going to move forward into the future, a unitive vision. Okay, having said all that, I also wanted to say here we all are, and every one of us in this room have made a commitment to the spiritual path, and a deep one, the deepest we're capable of making at this point in time in our incarnation. But what should we, looking at personal trends for the future, as us as individual Sevaka members, I think there are different things to look at. One, meditation. We all should be challenging ourselves in our sadhana, longer, deeper, guru-given, of balancing all those three. We think it's by our willpower, but it's not. And sometimes we can get self-deluding and think, I'm working so hard, I don't have time to meditate. Lifetimes go by, and we're working too hard to meditate. But if we are going to fulfill the role that Master gave us, we have to make God contact, each one of us. Not just that person or this person, but each one of us has to strive for God contact. So going deeper in our sadhana, and then looking at our service. There are people in this room who are life member Sevakas who are not serving within the communities, and yet they're serving humanity. And that's what's important. And so to look at everything we're doing as divine service. And again, that's a trend in the world that's so lacking for people to be demonstrated. What does it look like not to be living for self-interest? The world is all about self-interest. We're not about self-interest. And we have to demonstrate that as clearly and as powerfully as we can. Everything that we do. And I'm not saying this is a corrective to anyone in this room. I mean, I sometimes sit and think about the people I get to live with, all of you, and I'm so thrilled and overwhelmed to see the beauty of the lives. There was a series called Band of Brothers. That was a TV series, very inspiring, about true story about this one company, the E Company, that just these young guys from basically the New York area, and how they were always at the forefront of every movement during World War II. It was just astonishing. And then this was done with actors, but there was one, they interviewed some of the surviving members of the E Company. And one man, they asked this one man who had had his leg blown off at the Battle of the Bulge and survived. And he just said, oh, darn, when they were carrying him out of the battlefield, he said, now I can't fight with my brothers. But they asked him, do you feel like you were a hero? And he said, oh, no, I'm not a hero, but I lived with heroes. And that's what it feels like living at Ananda. I live with saints. And we need to see each other that way and see our service that way, that we can show the world what it looks like to serve without any self-interest. So sadhana, service, And then the last two kind of go together, discipleship and attunement. And let's keep our teachings and our path and our techniques, don't compromise them. People will come up with new variations. No. We don't need variations. We don't need new expressions of Master's teachings. We need creative expression, yes, but not changing it. And so discipleship on every level. Try to feel more and more that it's Master who animates your life, not you. It's not your decisions, it's not your goals, it's not your projects, it's Master's. We quoted something Nakula said when we were visiting the guys, the temple work crew, and Nakula said, I don't feel like we're building anything, we're just trying to capture what already exists. And you can feel that when you go there. It's like, wow, this it's like a magic thing happening. And so with our discipleship, Master is us. And we're just trying to capture, how does Master want to live through Devi or Dambara or Seva? That's all. It's really all it is. Master's living through every single one of us, and he's making decisions that serve his work through all of us. And so just to try to feel that, so discipleship, and then hand in glove is attunement. Does this please you, Master? Is this what you would do? Guide me in everything I do or say. There was that wonderful song, Guide me, Master, through the day, and each thing I do or say. Keep me, Master, through the night, that even in sleep I may dream aright. That was written by someone that we don't sing, not Swami, so we don't sing it much anymore, but I love the words. So the future, we are the future because we are becoming Master. All of us, each one of us, we're becoming the Guru, and to show the world how it can be done. And we've been reading Swami's commentaries on the Gita, Master's commentaries that Swami recorded or put into words. And there was something that struck me very deeply. It said, even in Dwapara Yuga, which is basically a Rajasic age, there are periods, he said, just like as in a storm, there are calm parts of the ocean. Even in Dwapara Yuga, there are places that are basically sattvic. And that's what Ananda is. We're a little island of divine sattvic energy in the middle of the storm of rajas. And how do we keep afloat? God and Guru. God and Guru. It's their mission. And the more we can just not be afraid. I'm really, whatever comes, many of us have gone through fire and disaster already in the years that Ananda has been here. And I remember Sadhana Devi saying that she always, after the fire that destroyed their house, our house, many other houses, she said, I just keep my everything packed now for easy exit. But then one little thought I want to close with, it's just so charming. Don't ever feel, somebody was saying they were feeling guilty about not doing enough, not being enough. Don't take anything that I've said or Jyotish has said to feel guilty about what you're doing. Guilt is a real useless feeling because all it does is pull the rug out from under you. And we have a friend who is part of the New York City meditation group. He's an older gentleman. I think he was not much educated. I think he was just a laborer of some sort. But he's a beautiful devotee, James Pickens. James, if you ever watch this, I don't think he's a Sevaka, but a wonderful soul. And, we write these blogs every week. By the way, we're up to 300 of them. There have been 100 podcasts, but that's just the recording, but 300 blogs. But James wrote a comment to one of them, and he said, and it's so charming, and I wanted to share it with all of you. He said, sometimes people who aren't my friends or family who see me meditating, they kind of challenge me, and they said, oh, why do you do all that stuff? You're no different than you used to be. And he said, well, I went home when they said that, and I cried. And then I prayed to God, and he gave me the answer. And now I say to them, maybe I'm not what I want to be, and I'm surely not what I could be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be. So I think that's true of all of us. And there's so much that what I got from what Jyotish was saying is that we are putting out a wave into the future. We don't know what shores that wave will land on, where it will come to rest, what distant beaches it will touch, what souls will be reached. We don't know, but we put the wave out, and we keep pushing those waters forward. And in fact, you can see, do we push the waters forward? No, God creates the wave. But we do our best to keep things from obstructing the wave. I think that's about all we really do. But, even with our education for life, we were saying this at our brunch table. Our schools are little, they're struggling, but the changes that can happen, I'm looking at Nitai. We have now living here at the village 2 boarding students from India, and girls that we've known for many years. And we asked them, why did you come? And we shared this at the meeting when Pia was here with the community, but the statistics in India are every hour one student commits suicide in India because of pressure of accomplishments and getting good grades and excelling every hour. And these 2 girls that have come from India, and they're bright girls, they could be top of their class if they wanted. We said, why did you come here? And they said, in India, in those schools, they just care about how we score. Here, they care about how we learn. And that's the future. That's the future of education. And we look at our little struggling schools and we think, oh, well, will we have a first grade teacher or whatever, all the things we struggle with. But it's so much bigger than that. It's a wave that's going out that is addressing the needs of the times that Babaji and Master foresee. So let's just support each other in everything that we're doing. And with grace of God and Guru, let's watch the waves that emanate forth from Ananda, the waves of blessings and higher consciousness spread and touch shores all over the world. So now, as is so often my job, I'm going to embarrass 2 very good friends. So I would like to invite Devalila and Vic to come up. What could they possibly be coming up for? People ask. 2 Sevakas. Vic works outside the community with hospice. You don't need to cry. Devalila has recently taken over the Kriya Sangha and doing a remarkable job with it. Just remarkable. And behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. But we don't often realize how our Sevakas who don't work in the community, how they're serving humanity. And Vic, well, first of all, we're going to bless him with the name Vishnu, which is the sustainer. And that's what he does, works with hospice. But he recently received a very, very impressive recognition for his work. Do you want to say what it is, or do you want Devalila to say what it is?
Maybe I'll say what it is, 'cause he is a little mad that he's embarrassed. So I'll share that there's a publication that goes out to caregivers There are home health aides, hospice aides, nurses. It's a national publication, and every month they choose someone to feature in a region throughout the country, and Vic was chosen for being the top health hospice aide in Northern California. He was chosen because of his compassion, really. He's been doing it for 13 years, and that's remarkable to do something like this for that long. So. You want to say anything?
Well, I think as Dave Alila said, a lot of it's got to do with Master helping me be able to do it for that long, because a lot of it is about the time that I have done it, because most people only do it for a couple of years at a time, because it is quite intense. But just to give you an idea of how much I think Master does help me do the work, just the other day, I overheard the son of one of my patients, one of the hospice patients, the son was asking, why is it that you only allow Vic to help you with your personal care? And he said, well, I'm bipolar, I'm schizophrenic, I'm legally blind, I've got sugar diabetes, I've got dementia of the frontal lobe, and Vic understands what's going through my head all the time. And to me, that's got to be Master. That isn't me. For him to believe that. So thank you.
We'll bless you with the nectar. Let's all bless them. Evalila with the Kriya Sangha work, and Vishnu with the support and love that he gives to everyone. Now, very briefly, Bhakti, Mark, do you want to come up and just share what you...
Well, it's a great honor for Ananda Español to have an incredible team of people with Gloria Ramirez and Arati from Spain. And the three of us have created such a magnetism that for the first time, we're going to be offering Inner Renewal Week in Spanish online. We already have people from many countries, but the main thing is that probably you know what is happening in Venezuela right now. Today they have right now demonstration so they can get the human aid into Venezuela. We have Kriyavans, we have devotees there, and they sign up, 10 of them, to be able to do the Inner Renewal Week online in Spanish. So please keep them in your prayers because they need it. So let's visualize all the Kriyavans, the devotees, and how the masters are blessing them. And their rays of light into Venezuela just to bring and break the barriers. They are holding this human aid from coming into Venezuela. So let's visualize all the masters, Babaji, leading this energy of helping those human aids to come into the country and benefit all those who are needed it.
to the Spanish ministry. Now,
So I'm going to help bring into focus not far Dwapara Yuga, but a very short term, one of the trends that Jyotish was talking about, and that's the temple and the 50th anniversary. So 140 days from today, we will be sitting over there dedicating the Temple of Light. And there are obviously a few things that still need to happen in those next 140 days, but we have a great crew working on the temple. They're just bringing into focus the whole finished timeline, putting all the places in there, insulation and sheetrock and the HVAC and the tiles, and it's all coming together. It's all going to be coming into place. And the other part of all this is, of course, all our support to make this happen. And that's been coming into focus and coming into place. Last week, we had a wonderful streamathon where we raised some more money, kept the energy going. And Geeta let me know that through the streamathon and the 80,000 plus we raised that day, we have now reached $3.3 million raised for the temple. So there's just a little bit more to go, and that is going to come. Just keep that in your prayers. It would be lovely, it'd be wonderful to be able to sit in that temple in 140 days and have it all paid for and debt-free. And I think we can do it. It's within sight. And so to keep this energy moving, we're going to be having some other campaigns. There's going to be, you can buy a tile. You bought one for the roof. Now you need one for the floor. We're going to have another focused energy to help finish it up, especially the outside, around the Rajasi Day at the village. We've moved it to later in May to give ourselves a little bit of breathing room after the springtime at Ananda. So Rajasi Day is going to be the 25th of May, which is Memorial Day weekend. And around that weekend, we're also inviting people from around the Ananda world to come to have another 5 or 6 days of seva, with the focus being landscaping, the paths, outside, finishing up whatever we need to finish up. So you'll be hearing more about that. Tim Clark is your contact if you'd like to come from outside the community. And also during that weekend, we're going to have our first live event from inside the temple. So we'll do another streamathon or another energetic event from inside the temple, probably on that Sunday afternoon, the 26th. So that's still in the planning stages, but just keep it in your meditations, keep it in your prayers, especially the temple crew, the fundraising crew, all that energy of bringing down that light of the masters into this beacon of light that we're going to be used to bless the entire world. So as we move, and there's one thing for those of you who live here, we'll be starting or continuing to expand our Wednesday noon meditation in the temple. So it hasn't been put out that widely because it hasn't been that warm in there yet, but that's coming soon. And if you're a hardy soul in the village and you'd like to come over and join the crew Wednesdays at noon, you're welcome to do that. We'll have chairs there. Bring your coats and bring your earplugs until further notice, because we're not stopping the subcontractors. If they want to work, they work. We meditate, they work. Just to keep it going, but it will be expanding. There is a chance and a presence for us to all start meditating in there. We may, as it gets more completed, we may have more opportunities to be in there after hours, just to help keep that energy going. Say the affirmation every day. It's happening. It's there. You can see it. So to help celebrate this, we are planning a 50th anniversary celebration and a dedication for the temple, June 30th through July 6th. 6th is the dedication. It'll end on the 7th. We have about close to 400 people signed up so far that are coming. If you haven't signed up, there's still plenty of chances to do that. There's also accommodations still, plenty of accommodations. We've rented Shady Creek Camp, which is a beautiful camp down on Shady Creek, about 5 or 10 minutes from here on Tyler Foot Road. And we have the whole facility. And so the rooms can accommodate up to 5 or 6 people, but if we don't get 250 people, we spread out through the whole facility. So I think it'll actually be quite comfortable. We're going to take over the whole facility. No one else is there besides us. There's a swimming pool. There's a beautiful place down by the creek. They're providing breakfast there. There'll be a sauna room there. So again, if you haven't found an accommodation you'd like to come, or you have friends who know that they want to come, there is plenty of room to do that. We also have camping still. So we have our reservations team, Jayashwari and Namdevi, and standing by, ready to take your reservations. We're also reaching out into the communities. There'll be representatives there in the next couple weeks after Sunday services, or just available to answer questions and to help people get signed up and to make sure that everybody who wants to participate can find a way to participate. So the focus, the program itself has been coming together. We've been working with Jyotish and Devi since they've been back from their travels around the world. And it's going to be an incredible program. It's both taking the historical of what's happened at Ananda and then marrying that with all those lovely stories and lessons and vignettes and anecdotes and things that have happened to make this wonderful work come into manifestation over these 50 years. So the first day we'll talk about, as Jyotish was saying, bringing that vision of Babaji and Master into fruition. How do we do that? What are the principles? How did that come down? What is it that Swami was saying? What was he channeling here? The next few days we'll be talking about how it started here at Ananda Village onto the West Coast, and then subsequent days out into Europe, out to India, how different manifestations, different expressions of those teachings came into being. There'll be videos and pictures, all those lovely old pictures you're always wanting to see of people who look 50 years younger than they do now. And that'll be the morning classes. On Friday, we have a very special class. It'll be a keynote speaker, Sri Kartikeyan from India is coming to join us. And it's going to be really looking at, again, out farther from where we're going next. What's Ananda's and Swami's position, Master's position out in the world? Then on Saturday is all dedicated to the dedication of the temple. The beginning of the day is we're bringing the light of the Masters in, we're garlanding, we're invoking the presence of the Masters into the murtis, bringing them in as part of our sadhana. The morning session is bringing the light from various religions. We'll have representatives from the world's religions, bringing that energy into the niches in the altar. And then in the evening, it's all of us circling together, bringing our light and doing a grand group arati, if you will, to keep those blessings flowing in the temple. And the first Sunday service in the temple will be July 7th. So it's going to be an incredible week. We've lined up to help us with these numbers more than we've ever hosted before. We've brought in a renowned chef caterer who's done healing retreats and spiritual retreats from around the world. She's working with us. She has some wonderful menus, so sign up for the meals. She'll be helping with that. Again, we have the accommodations. Afternoons are going to be a little bit less structured. We'll have a lot of time just to gather with all our friends from around the world. We have groups coming from 3 different main groups coming from India. We have a large group of European pilgrims that Shivani is bringing, and we have people from all over the United States. So there'll be a chance just to share, to get to know the other members of the Sevaka order, our larger devotee family. In the evenings, we'll be showing the answer. We have a kirtan. July 4th is a very special day. It is the recognized anniversary of Ananda. We closed the papers on the signing of this land on July 4th, 1969. That's why we're picking that date. And we're going to dedicate our 4th of July celebration, as we usually do, to having fun, but also as an expression of world brotherhood and really looking at how that sense of freedom and expansion has spread through Ananda, through around the world. So there'll be a special celebration in the afternoon, a concert that evening. On Wednesday evening, we're doing vignettes of 3 different of Swami's theatrical works. We'll be having The Jewel and the Lotus, something from the Peace Treaty, and Land of Golden Sunshine, put on by 3 different communities, all in the amphitheater. And then on Saturday night, we're still working it out, but it's going to be, as I said, that dedication, a real special blessings and dedications to bring this temple. So there's plenty of space. We're still open for business. If you think you've been confused or it's been chaotic, just put that aside. We have a website up, ananda.org/50th. There are chances to register. We can answer all your questions. And as a Sevaka order, it's all of us putting this on, because you'll be hearing from us, from Lakshmi Lapine, of how you can participate in helping put this on, because it's meditation and service. The Sevaka order is the heart of that. So it's going to take all of us to put this on, and we're going to be drawing everybody in. But it wouldn't be an Ananda event if you were just going to sit back there and, as a spectator. So forget that. It's we're all putting this on together. So blessings.
And Atman is guaranteeing no snowstorms.
I'm guaranteeing it's not going over 85 degrees.
Okay.
Jai is going to share about.
I don't know if you're like me, but I got tired just listening to all that. 35 are coming from India, or thereabouts, maybe more. And I was listening to the Spanish ministry, and I have to say, I have my office up in the upstairs of the Sangha office, and they have their office right next to me. Now, I don't understand what they're saying, but they sure do have fun. And sometimes, people wonder, as you know, I come back and forth, I go back and forth. I have certain family duties that I have to take care of here, but there's more to it than that, of why I come back and forth. And since I'm coming back and forth, what I try to do, and I see it as one of my missions, is to try to keep us in sync, you might say. You know how you have to sync your computers and sync your phone to your computer? Well, we try to sync Ananda India with what's going on here. And we're trying to keep it in sync and try to translate the directions that are happening here and try to bring them over to India and to put them into action there. And we're hopefully also, maybe we can also share back the other direction as well. Now, India is changing rapidly. I've been there now 12 years. 12 years, wow. It goes by really fast. But in that time, I've seen it change. It's really quite remarkable. I think it's changing much more rapidly than you find here in the West, at least outwardly. And I think those outward changes also represent basic fundamental changes that are happening societally also in India. And you see that, the buildings coming up, things are going this way and that way. And really, I think India is going to be, it is somewhat of the new frontier in the sense of Master's work, we expressing Ananda's work there in India. And it's fun because, like being on the frontier, you can make it up as you go along. And that, in a sense, is what we do. And we're having to take these principles that we've learned here through my many decades here at Ananda Village and then put them into practice also in a new environment, in a new, you might say, in a new outward expression. So what we're doing that there, and also some of you know I go to China, and we do it a little bit there as well. But this is a Sevaka retreat, and one of the things that we're doing there is trying to translate Sevaka order into India. How do we do that? We don't really have a Sevaka order in India, but it may not take the same form, but we have to somehow, what is the spirit of what the Sevaka order is? What are the principles behind the Sevaka order? And it's those things that we're trying to figure out. How do we make the Sevaka order a reality there? And you can say that's if people ask, well, what are you doing in India now? And that's one of the things, is we're trying to start the Sevaka order in India. Now, it's actually started a little bit already through the monastery. You know, the monks, they've moved. They moved over to another city, and Devarshi is doing a fantastic job of reorganizing the monastery. He's got it organized. He's got the brahmachari, the steps, and they've moved in order to be a training monastery, to be able to bring more monks in. And you could say those are our first Sevaka order members in India. What was I going to say? I've got my...
In your pocket.
list of things that I think you might like to know, new things that are happening in India. I mentioned the monks. Well, what the monks do, they've taken on the function of being in charge of our home study course. I think it was about a year or so, I had some of you sign up to actually help us on that. Well, it was a good start, but they've advanced it much more beyond that. And now what we have is, through the monks, we are reaching out with the Kriya Yoga course to people throughout India where we cannot reach physically. This goes back a little bit to what Jyotish was saying. We have to reach out virtually, online. And so this is what the monks are doing, and they're doing a really fantastic job of it. A couple of things that are happening just locally, you could say, in India, is that Dhyana has moved back to the NCR up to work with the Institute. Mumbai has a new center. Bangalore has a new and better center. Pune, although we don't have a new center, one of the things that we're doing in Pune is, you might say, in line with what Jyotish was saying of the Institute's function, is to reach out to that broader funnel of people. And what we do there is, we've been moving into the area of corporate training. And I just received a note last month that we now have, in the month of March, 10 corporate training programs going throughout the major corporations in India, mostly with Tata and with the Indian Army. Yeah, the Indian Army, really. They're quite... Pune is a military city also, besides everything else, but we have many people in our Sangha that actually are associated with the military, and they've invited us to give corporate trainings for the officers, and so we've been doing quite a few of those. I mentioned that we also been reaching out to overseas. We've actually got the monks that training course that they have, that Kriya Yoga training course, many of the students have been coming in from South Africa. Interestingly, South Africa has one of the largest NRI overseas populations of Indians, and we've been getting many, many students coming in from South Africa, and this got to the point where we're probably going to have to send a Kriyacharya to South Africa to do a Kriya initiation soon. We also go to Singapore. We have a very dynamic group there in Singapore. And as I mentioned, we also have China. Now, China, where's Krishnadas there? Krishnadas visited China, and I think perhaps some of you saw his slideshow. It's really an amazing work that's taking place there, that in terms of not the work so much, but the interest in China is very, very dynamic. And I think you're going to see, looking ahead into the future, within the next decade, you're going to see an explosion of interest taking place in China just as well. Let's see. Well, I think that's about it. I could probably tell you lots of things about India in terms of the personnel, but I would like to conclude by inviting those of you who would like to come to India to please put it in, at least take a pilgrimage, and if at any time you want to come to Pune, come to New Delhi, and we'll host you and be able to introduce you to the homeland of Master and his teachings. Many blessings to you.
God comes in all sizes, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think we went from short to tall in order there.
You know, I just want to share one story about, thank you, Jaya, thank you, Atman, and Bhakti Marg, and Devalila, and Vishnu. One short story about how the monastery found its new location. It's the monks had been all living in Pune, but they were just living in apartment units, not all together, and they couldn't really get a focused energy. And Devarshi really tuned in. He said, "We need to live separate and from other existing works and together. So we meditate together exclusively every morning." So they looked for a location somewhere between Mumbai and Pune, because those were the areas where
A 3-hour drive from one to the other.
And they couldn't find anything, and they were looking and looking. And then Gaurav, I don't know, some of you at the village remember him. He was here for many months. He's just one of our finest young devotees in India, capable of anything. I think he was a Raja, a king in another life, because he just has such nobility about him. Very young, but carries a huge responsibility. How old is he, like 24 or something like that? Oh, is he 20? Jaya just said he's about 28. 20. Okay. But in any case, so they were looking for where can we find a place where we can live together in a monastery. And Gaurav was driving one day from Pune to Mumbai, and he saw this big sign, Summer Hill Estates. And something just told him, turn off here. And there was another monk in the car with him, and he pulled up, and there's this, he didn't even know what it was. And there's this big gate with this guard. And Gaurav said, I don't know what came over me, but I just said, the guard said, what do you want? You don't live here. And Gaurav said, I want to talk to your manager. He just, and the guard was kind of, he said, you mean Suresh? And he goes, yes, Suresh. And he didn't know who he was. And then the guard got him from Suresh, there's someone who wants to talk with you. You better come down. And so then the guy came down, and he said, well, and he was charmed by their openness, by their sincerity, their genuineness. But he said, well, we don't rent here. These are all big estates that people from Mumbai, wealthy people, have created these big homes with big yards, and nobody lives in them. They come maybe once or twice a year. We came to find out the people who live there are the caretakers and their children, but the owners live in Mumbai. But he said, but we don't rent. These are just all for purchase, for, multi-millions of dollars. And so Gaurav said, well, we're a monastery and we want to rent some units here to live together. And the man said, well, I'll call up one of the men who I know. And he called him up. He said, he's willing to rent to you. But this is the price he wants. And it was high. And Gaurav said, oh, well, we can't pay that much. And the man said, well, how much can you pay? And he told him a very low figure. Okay, you can have it. And so they have these beautiful homes in this empty development. They're the only ones living there virtually. And quiet and beautiful. And God gave the monks a monastery, so that's how that happened.
And from that monastery, as Jaya said, one of the main functions is this home study course. And just to give you a sense, probably by the end of this year, we will have about 1,000 people on the track from learning to meditate going up to Kriya. Of course, some will drop out along the way, but think of that in terms of how many people we have collectively in all of the other centers. As Swami said, one of these days, India will be bigger than all the rest of Ananda put together, and it's already coming true. But we all have our work to do, and we're all extensions of Babaji and Master, and he's put each one of us in exactly the place that we're supposed to be. And if we just accept him flowing through and accept our life in him, then everything will be fine. We had a reading some years ago, actually the few months after Swami passed, a Nadi reading that's like a Brgu reading. And one of the things that the reader said, reading these ancient scriptures or ancient writings in Sanskrit, one of the things he said, and this applies to all of us, he said, you have given your life to your guru, and he is taking care of you moment by moment and second by second. And so I think that's a good way to end. Master is taking care of all of us, moment by moment and second by second. And as long as we do our best to stay in tune, then he will use our willingness to be in tune to do his mission into the world. And the Sevaka order is the heart of that movement, at least as far as Ananda is concerned. So I think that's a good place to end. We'll close with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, beloved Swamiji, we humbly bow to you all. Bless us with thy presence, with thy guidance. Help us be ever more deeply attuned to thee. And help us be willing channels to bring thy light to all the world. Om. Peace. Amen. Thank you all for coming.